If you are a fan of Monster Hunter Wilds, you might have seen the Steam reviews on the game, going from mixed reviews to an overwhelmingly negative review on the game. In case you don't know, Monster Hunter Wilds has had its fair share of review bombing in the past few months due to the claims of it lacking content, the performance issues being bad, and it being too easy. And I think we should take the time to shed some light on these topics. As I talked about Monster Hunter Wilds' performance not being as optimized as others would have wished it to be, I would like to remind you all that Capcom Monster Hunter is, has, and always will be a console-first developer, meaning that Monster Hunter as a franchise always published their games on console first, evidently throughout its entire journey from the PS2 era all the way up to where it is now. The first game being Monster Hunter, released on the PlayStation 2 and continuing its journey on with further console iterations like handheld consoles and other standalone consoles like the PlayStation, the Nintendo Switch, and the Nintendo 3DS. And they always managed to add mouse and keyboard support to the game, and then a few years later, they go through a PC development team, and then they release it on Steam. Wilds was the first game they made which simultaneously released both on PC and console, trying to optimize the game for PC when most of what you know is console related will be harder than you expect, with how many rigs and what kind of parts you need in your computer to fully run Wilds with its full capabilities. I'm pretty sure it will be tough on the team. Now I know performance is a great deal when it comes to playing games, but I bet half of the people who are complaining about the optimization don't even know what the other half is saying when it comes to the actual optimization, and I feel like we are way past this topic of the game being sub-optimized and it being dog shit on release or whatever, or having shitty performance. I think we are like at a point in Wild's life cycle where I think that the more we wait on it, the more the performance is gonna get ironed out. And so far with title update 2, I heard like 40% of the PC problems have been, patched up, which 40% of the PC bugs being fixed, working with a developer who most of their coding is console based, I think that's a pretty solid improvement in my opinion. 40% with people who don't know how much coding on PC works and are mainly familiar with coding on consoles, I think that's a pretty fair, that's a pretty sizable achievement for Capcom Monster Hunter. And I think we should appreciate this because I feel like as soon as title update 3 comes out, a lot of things are going to be ironed out for people to enjoy. Secondly, the community. I feel like the community for Monster Hunter is very inconsistent when it comes down to what they want. When they ask for difficulty, they got Iceborne Fatalis, one of the hardest monsters in the Monster Hunter series in general. And what did the community do? Complain about how butt-kickingly hard he was and they wanted to have an easier experience. Then Rise came out and everyone said it was way too easy and the hunters felt overpowered. Sound familiar? I feel like the Monster Hunter fans are constantly stuck with rose-tinted glasses because the constant bickering between which Monhunt game is better than the previous entry is starting to become exasperating and very annoying. Here's an example made by Uno Hunter.
We get a new game. People talk about, oh, the previous one is better. Oh my god, the previous one's better. Then another Monster game comes out, and then, but this one, the previous one was better. It was so, I guess, after hearing it so often, I'm just like, alright, Monster Hunter World came out, people said that it wasn't much to do in there. Iceborne came out, Clutch Claw, GU is so much better. Rise came out, what's this? I want my Clutch Claw back. The game's too easy, even though people complained about the Fatalis thing. And I guess I'm just like, I'm just used to it.
My third point being the lack of creativity, innovation, and difficulty. Monster Hunter is a series that prides itself on its creativity and innovation. We all know this. Its new mechanics that come with the game and the set pieces of speculative evolution and the ecological sciences around the world of Monster Hunter that give it its own layer gives it a breath of fresh air in the gaming experience, where half the fucking games that are being released in this year is just slop fucking souls like, bro. Like, come on, how much slop do you gotta give to the trough? Anyways, but that sounds amazing, right? An ever evolving game from the previous version with better monsters, debatably, better new mechanics, and amazing rich lore about the ecosystem. So then, why the fuck is the Monster Hunter community trying to take away the single most known thing about this franchise in favor for some generic ass gameplay? See, in the Monster Hunter community, there are three kinds of fans. The veterans who started out with the OG PS2 Monster Hunter game, who had to grind their balls against a meat grinder to get a single piece of armor and know everything about a game and why it's so beloved. And the new people who have heard nothing about the game and find the fantasy style world to be interesting and the combat system to be fun. And then you have that weird masturbatory corner of Monster Hunter World Iceborne fanboys. You might have heard the term world babies thrown around here and there if you have ever, God forbid, interacted with the Monster Hunter community. Of course, any wandering passerby would not think much of it. They would think, oh man, so this is how many people like Monster Hunter World, huh? Wrong. It's the amount of people who started out their Monster Hunter journey with World Iceborne and will make their entire personality about World Iceborne to an almost unhealthy obsession. And mind you, the people who only played Base World before Iceborne released, these players are pretty chill. They're pretty fun to, hang out with in the Monster Hunter community. You won't have too much trouble, not too many arguments. They will, be level-headed. It's for some reason the people who played Monster Hunter World Iceborne specifically that have conglomerated into this one organism called World Fanboys. These are the same people who said that the Clutch Claw is the best thing to happen to the series since the introduction of sex. The same people who advocated for not just another Monster Hunter experience, they wanted to make it a carbon copy of the game they love. This isn't the Souls-like fandom. People don't want a copy-paste version of the same game repeatedly. What you may like, others don't. People who try to shun Capcom's creative side and want to bog down the innovation of the franchise are the reason why these reviews exist in the first place. And to you, my fellow hunter, who complains about how simple and easy these games have become, in the end, it isn't made for the hardcore. It is made for the new players and then caters to the hardcore. In Dark Souls, the first few enemies that they show you are little brain-dead mobs who are there to teach you the ropes, get your bearings, and then give you a big penultimate boss at the end of the area to test your skill, to put in practice what you have learned. But I think people have been so consumed by the number of Souls-like in the gaming franchise that all they know is that if the game is hard as fuck, it is the best game in the franchise. At this point, go play something else like Ninja Gaiden or an actual good Souls-like Lies of P. I think it's because the world was so difficult to play and grind through and was packed with so much content with the introduction of the DLC that they started to compare Wilds, a game that was released only 5 to 6 months ago. You can't rush greatness. Rome wasn't built in a day. So, what's the point of me ranting about this when I could just be playing the game and fighting Lagiacrus and having fun with the game? Because PC players have a stronger voice in the gaming space than any other gamer out there, and I felt, as the main demographic for the Monster Hunter franchise, a console player, I feel like Capcom should listen to their original target audience as well. Of course, I'm not putting down aside others' voices and votes. If you want to help Capcom bring out their A game with Wilds, then I think comparing this game to other games in the IP isn't really a good way of doing so. These are the same people who really want to make their fans happy and love listening to their community. And I really hope they don't sacrifice their innovation and creativity for the sake of wanting another entry like Monster Hunter World 2 or whatever, which is just the same carbon copy of Monster Hunter World with Clutch Claw and whatever. Sure, they'll have more content or whatever, but it's not gonna be the same because it isn't meant to be the same. It is an ever evolving chamber of thoughts that goes into different ideas and different creative ventures and everything. That's why Monster Hunter is so loved, not just because of its charm, but because of its creativity, which I think is also part of its charm, but you get what I mean. Anyways, I really I really thank you all for, listening to me rant about this subject. And yeah, I'm sorry if this is like a poorly edited or like poorly made, rushed video. I'm trying out a new editing software, DaVinci's Resolve, and it's absolutely tearing my PC to shreds. Unfortunately, CapCut has become too greedy for me to use anymore, and the new TOS is absolutely horrendous. Anyone who uses CapCut should absolutely delete the platform, delete the editing software, and try to diverse into other editing softwares like DaVinci Resolve or Premiere or whatever you have. And yeah, thank you all for listening to this rant. And yeah, if you have any thoughts, any rebuttals, let's keep it all civil here in the comment section. I don't want, anyone to go after each other's necks. I want the comment section to be civil about this, and I want people's honest opinion about this. And hopefully we can reach to a consensus that, yeah, just give the game more time to release and to fix more patches. And yeah, we'll see where the future of Wilds goes after this. I can't really wait for Title Update 3, bro. I need Title Update 3 right now. Title Update 2 is so fire. I can't wait to go play more of it, man. Anyways, thank you all for listening and happy hunting.